ẹ̀yin tèmi Morayo Brown èyí tó jẹ́ kan lára àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ iléeṣẹ́ TVC News ó tú kẹ̀kẹ́ ọ̀rọ̀ kalẹ̀ níbi ìfọ̀rọ̀wánilẹ́nuwò kan èyí tí wọ́n ṣe fún un. Arábìnrin yìí jẹ́ ká mọ̀ wípé iléeṣẹ́ yìí ti fi ìgbà kan fún òun níwèé kó fi iṣẹ́ kalẹ̀ ní iléeṣẹ́ yìí. Ó ní ṣùgbọ́n bàbá wa Bola Ahmed Tinubu ò ní wọ́n dá òun padà. Ẹ̀yin tèmi eléyìí gbẹnu tán. Arábìnrin yìí ó sọ ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ọ̀rọ̀, bẹ́ẹ̀ sì ni ó mẹ́nuba ọ̀rọ̀ rẹ̀ tó lọ káàkiri orí ayélujára nígbà kan níbi tó ti mẹ́nuba wípé òun ò lè gbà kí ọkọ òun kó wẹ ọmọ òun obìnrin. Ẹ̀yin èèyàn, ó ṣàlàyé àti ọkọ rẹ̀ kọ sí ọ̀rọ̀ náà, bẹ́ẹ̀ sì ni àwọn tí àwọn ẹbí sọ nípa ọ̀rọ̀ náà nígbà náà lọ́hùn. Ẹ̀yin tèmi, arábìnrin yìí ó sọ ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ọ̀rọ̀ ní orí ìfọ̀rọ̀wánilẹ́nuwò yìí. Ẹ jẹ́ ká gbọ́ nǹkan tí Morayo èyí tó sọ. Gbogbo ń tẹ̀yìn náà bá rò lórí fídíò yìí, ẹ fi dáhùn yín, ẹ fi sí orí comment section.
People thought that after you worked in the 2023 elections, that the next level was this. And you are so close to the first family that you can call the first lady to get advice.
Really? No. So then, yes, and because we have a history. My father was president of the Nigerian Bar Association, and he was a human rights activist. And when he was very ill, the governor at the time, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, stood my mother. I mean, he cared for my dad. He helped with medical bills, and then the things were really tough for the family, and he was there for us. And then my brother came back home. He held my brother's hand in politics. He was somebody that stood with us, and it wasn't through him I got my job at TVC. It wasn't through him. I mean, I was hired because I used to work with Tony Subar.
Yes, at High TV.
And High TV.
Which is why I knew you for the first time.
Yes, I worked with High TV, and then I was in Cannes in France, where I met RDG, late RDG, let God bless his memory. And he saw me, he loved my work ethics, and we had a good rapport. A few months after High TV went down, and he calls me and said, Morayo, TVC needs a director in charge of programs. Are you ready for the job? And I came around, and I spoke to Nigel Parsons, who was the CEO at the time. He interviewed me, said, okay, you know what? I need you to do me a report first. Let's see what you can even fix this channel. And I did a report for him after 4 weeks. I presented it to him. He said, okay, you're hired based on this, implement all this report. And that's how I got into TVC. It had nothing to do with Ashiwaju. It was fact, few years after, when I worked at TVC, internal politics got me fired. It was after I got fired that my CEO at the time...
You got fired?
I got fired in TV. Go and read my book, you get the details. I got sacked because internal politics sacked me. And then people now wanted, do you know who you sacked? I mean, people now called Ashiwaju, do you know whose child was sacked? I said, I'm not aware. That's when people like Tony Subar, Tunji Bello, and even my CEO, Mr. Lemmy, at the time, my deputy CEO, at the time, we went to go and call him, saying, this is the Alawa Kabashano's daughter. That's when he knew it was me. And then he called me to his office. I said, what happened? And that's when, after a lot of back and forth, I got my job back. Although I was demoted, internal politics still demoted me for whatever reason. But you get the details in my book. But the point is that I didn't get my job through him. And I went there purely on merit.
But you still worked for his campaign.
So the campaign thing, I was invited. I got a letter, you know, from the women's arm of the campaign saying that I've been selected to work. Now, I had two choices. Say no. Or support him, because I actually did support him, because I believed him in his candidacy. So was my job as and it was my own personal decision. I mean, I always remember when Oprah held up Obama's hand and when he was running for office, and I had to go back and check him around. Are you sure it's something you want to go public about, that you're supporting this guy? And yes, I was skeptical, no doubt about that, but there's nothing wrong with me having a personal view. So I said, you know what, I'm going to support him openly. And that's when I accepted. And again, it's not every day you get an opportunity to work in a campaign. I mean, I was working closely with the media team, and I thought it was a good opportunity. So yeah, I took the job, and you know, and it was really nice.
Was it worth the perception in certain quarters that you cannot be objective because you've worked on his campaign, and you're doing a daily show, you're in a station that's owned by him? So was it worth the, I mean, people, you're still highly respected, so we can't call it reputational damage, but just the perception that this person cannot be objective about Ashiwaju matters.
But the truth is that it's a perception. The perception is not always reality. Because the truth is that I think TV is probably one of the most objective stations. It's hard to believe, but it's the truth.
How many years is the show now?
We're 12 years. We're 12 years in May, so we're 12 years plus few months now.
So 12 years of doing this show.
Yeah.
Did you think you would be here 12 years after?
Honestly, I'm proud of where we are 12 years after. I'm really proud of the work the entire team has put into make an awesome show, and I love the fact that many more people have replicated the format, which is really great. So where I am, where your view is, I'm grateful to God for it, and I think that we've done well, and the show definitely can only get better as we move forward.
But speaking of that, which we're getting an exclusive on, you've left your view, which is inconceivable for me, because I remember when you left TVC as an employee.
Yes, yes.
So I thought you were leaving your view. But when you didn't leave, I'm like, okay, that makes sense because your view is your baby.
Right.
You know, it's like Barbara Walters and The View.
Well, not exactly. So yeah, somewhat, because Barbara Walters was a staff, and then she left.
And then she left.
So I created Your View,
Yes.
and it was based on the View in the US.
Yeah.
And I also got in all the ladies to come. I specifically picked out the ladies I wanted to be on the show. So I created the show. And the truth is that I just felt that it's been 12 years. It was that when we were 10 years that I knew that it was time to go to the next thing.
Right.
I've been harboring that thought for a while, but I just didn't know to what or to where. But, you know, but I think last year I got that light bulb moment where I knew that, okay, it's time to leave. And I'm really proud of where they are, and I know that Your View is only going to get better going forward. I mean, I'm proud that we have a great team, and I handed over to amazing ladies. So they're good, and the show is only going to get better after me.
Amen.
Amen.
But have you chosen your successor as host?
I don't think it is my place to choose because the show doesn't belong to me. It belongs to the company. The company owns the show.
So you created it for the
company as a staff. So I cannot take ownership of the show.
Yeah.
So it's a TVC project.
Right.
I'm sure, I mean, the next person handling the show is based on the vision of the company, and I'm really sure it's going to be a good one for the show.
I think one of the beauties of the show, even for me, because that it's 12 years old and still going viral, it's a testament to its power.
Absolutely.
Because many shows don't continue to go viral years after.
Right.
And so, I mean, you mentioned the one about your husband, which you talked about the other time, but these things have real life impact because this thing that was said on a show, even your show, had a real life impact on your marriage, you said.
Yes. I mean, my husband was in camp. He was in camp and he had no clue what was going on.
Yes.
And he came home and I just said, Abraham, you know, it went viral. I said that I won't allow you to bath my daughter. And it went viral. I said, oh, really? No big deal. Why are you stressing? He now turned on his phone. The phone was off for a whole week because he was in camp doing time with God. The moment he turned it on, he charged the phone. He saw the barrage of message. He shouted, Morayo, what is this? What have you done? You know, because then he was angry because at that time he was praying. He goes to church 5 a.m. in the morning to lead praise and worship. Like, people will be thinking I'm a pedophile. I jog in my estate. People will see me like, this is not just about what you say, it's about perception. So I then understood the gravity of what it was. So it affected, but he's a strong man. He was able to understand that I didn't do it intentionally. So he came out with his own statement, you know, reassuring everybody, listen, I understand she didn't do it intentionally. And then
I think he said it was even his idea. It was he set up that structure in the family.
Right,
like
exactly.
Yes.
So he backed me up, and I think that helped me a bit. But whether he liked it or not, people will still talk in his ears. People will still say this. So it took a while for us to adjust because then it'd be like, don't mention my name on your TV again. Don't say anything. You know, that happened for a while, but eventually then he just got used to the fact that, listen, I have to share part of my life stories on the show.
That's authenticity.
Exactly.
What was the point you were trying to make then, in a nutshell?
So we had a guest on the show who was talking about how fathers were molesting children. And just having a conversation. And I just said to Carol, I can never allow my husband to, you know, it was a casual comment. But at that time, we didn't realize the impact because somebody extracted that clip, put it out there without the context, and then it went viral.
But even before that, I remember that our last conversation, we talked about your mom.
Yeah, I was hoping you wouldn't go there because I was not getting emotional here.
That was an emotional moment. Yes.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to ask you, but it just occurred to me because we talked about being a woman. So let's leave the emotional part of it because you talked about, you know, dealing with her loss and all of that.
Yes.
But I think what is even more striking for me was you talked about, I asked you if you thought your mother was happy by the time she passed, and you said you were not sure.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so powerful for so many women, and that you fought to not be the kind of woman.
You remember? Oh my goodness, you're detailed. Absolutely, in fact, and that hasn't changed.
Right.
I totally still feel that.
Can you explain that?
No, because there are many layers. My mother, as much as she tried to fix a lot of things, you know, but it was difficult for her to fix it.
Fix in the marriage?
No marriage.
Or in her life?
In her life.
Right.
You know, she knew that growing up, she had made certain decisions. Unfortunately, she was faced to live with those decisions. And I think I knew her hurts, I knew her pain, I knew what she was going through, but I couldn't help her.